News Alert. Investigators say that a cockpit voice recorder could play a pivotal role in determining why a commuter plane crashed this morning in North Carolina. The U.S. Airways Express plane operated by Air Midwest crashed on takeoff into a hangar at Charlotte Douglas International Airport. All 19 passengers plus the pilot and co-pilot were killed. We're expecting an update from the Director of Operations at the airport in a moment. We'll take that news conference live when it starts. Officials in Turkey say at least 5 people, including a baby, survived today's crash of a Turkish Airlines plane. The aircraft went down while trying to land at an airport near Turkey's border with Iraq. 72 passengers and 5 crew members were on board. The airport was covered in heavy fog at the time of the crash. A victory for President Bush today in the war on terrorism. A federal appeals court says Mr. Bush has the authority to designate U.S. citizens as enemy combatants and hold them in military custody. The ruling reverses a lower court decision in the case of Yasser Hamadi, a U.S. citizen accused of fighting with the Taliban in Afghanistan. That decision had ordered the government to defend Hamadi's detention. Illinois white supremacist leader Matt Hale was arrested today on charges of trying to arrange the killing of a federal judge. Hale is the head of the World Church of the Creator. He's accused of trying to arrange the killing of a judge who was presiding over a civil lawsuit involving the group's trademark. That's a CNN News Alert. Inside Politics begins right now.
Picking a fight over Pickering. Democrats blast the president's renomination of a controversial judge as a blow to racial healing.
It's not so different than Trent Lott's comment, sort of a wink to say, well, what happened in the past wasn't so bad.
Here comes Joe. Another Democratic presidential hopeful prepares to make his entrance. A school report card. 1 year later, has President Bush really left no child behind? A new enemy in the war on terror? It's part of a political drive against SUVs.
Everyone has one.
I help teach kids around the world to hate America.
I like to sit up high.
I sent our soldiers off to war. Everyone has one.
My life, my SUV.
Live from Washington, this is Inside Politics with Judy Woodruff.
Thank you for joining us. At the White House this hour, President Bush meets with House and Senate leaders of both parties. Just one day into the new Republican-controlled Congress with a host of hot issues already on the table. We expect to get some tape back, videotape from that meeting soon, and we'll show it to you. Also in this news cycle, Senate Democrats are vowing once again to block Judge Charles Pickering from being promoted to a federal appeals court, charging his record is hostile to civil rights. But right now, we're going to take you live to Charlotte, North Carolina, where the Director of Operations at the Charlotte Douglas International Airport is talking to reporters about today's crash.
Our team members are all arrived, and we have now taken control of the site, as was mentioned, and our work has already commenced. The medical examiner is in the process of recovering the remains of all the victims of this accident. And before I even proceed, I'd like to extend deepest condolences from the NTSB and the rest of the staff and the city folks as well, to the families and friends of the people who perished in this accident. We are working as we speak to move the wreckage to find what we think is the voice recorder. I just moments ago walked by. We have what we believe to be the flight data recorder. And we have an airplane standing by to take those to Washington as soon as we get the other box, or no later than 6:30 will we take the box that we do have to Washington to be read out to give us some initial indications of what may have happened. We have some eyewitnesses. We have interviewed a number of the people who worked the flight before it left, and that work will continue through the night. We will have another briefing later this evening at a real location, not out here in the field. We're searching for that site as we speak. And the point of contact for all of you in the press will be Keith Holloway, Most of you, I'm sure, already know who Keith is. And other than that, any questions that I can answer? We don't have much facts right now, but whatever we have, I'll give you.
Sir, can we ask you this? We know you're
One
done.
at a time.
We know you're first go down to the scene today.
About 5 minutes after we arrived.
And how long have investigators actually been down there, and what are they doing right now?
Our investigators have been here since about 2 o'clock, I would say, and we're documenting where the wreckage is, the path that the airplane took, and documenting things like where the flight data recorder was found, where the victims are found. Some of the pieces were thrown away from the site, and we're documenting where those pieces were found as well.
John, what can you tell us about the communication between the tower and the crew?
I have been told, I haven't heard a tape, but I have been told that one of the crew members declared an emergency, said we have an emergency. That's the extent of our knowledge of that right now. We do, as you all know, the tapes have all been sequestered, and we will get to that probably by tomorrow.
So how wide is the area of damage?
How
wide is the area of the damage?
The crash site itself is very contained, very, very contained. So, and there's not much that has escaped that area. So it's very compact.
If you send the reporters to Washington tonight, when would you get some information that would be available?
We will work on those immediately when they land. They're waiting for them. So this go nice and loud.
What's the experience level of the pilot?
I do know, I heard it, the captain had, don't hold me to these numbers exactly, but something over 2,500 hours total time, 1,800 hours in type, and that's the important number. So that's a significant time flying the airplane, and the first officer, I believe, was 700 and some odd hours in type. So that's, we don't know yet. We don't know which one was the pilot in command at this time. Yeah.
John, just to clarify, you've got the flight data recorder.
We think it's the flight data recorder.
What's the status with the CVR at this point?
They're looking for it. And the flight data recorder, and I'm the one saying it's the flight data recorder because I sort of recognize it, given my past. And the voice recorder is in the same area, but it wasn't obvious in the pile of wreckage right there. They brought in a lifting device, a forklift, to pick up some of that wreckage to look for the box.
Is there any indication from witness reports what the malfunction was?
Nothing at all at this time.
Can you tell yet if all the propellers were turning on impact? Do you have any?
Witnesses have said that the propellers were turning. We don't have any way to verify that yet, but the witnesses have said that they were turning.
What part of the plane hit the building itself?
The wing.
What do you know about the plane's maintenance record and when was it last seen?
We haven't got any of that yet. Rest assured, we'll be going after it.
Is it the same plane that had trouble with its landing gear Monday morning landing at GSP?
Don't know yet. The plane originated in, yeah, I knew you were going to ask that, Lynchburg, Virginia. I don't know that yet. That's on our list.
Lynchburg to Charlotte and Charlotte to Greenville?
Yes.
Do you know if there, I'm sorry if this is already asked, do you know if there was any recent maintenance done on this?
We don't know yet, Lisa.
You know how long the crew been on duty?
No, I have to assume that they got on duty the first thing this morning in Virginia. So that's only an hour's flight, not even.
The plane took off, flew about 1,800 feet, got to an altitude of what, maybe 100 feet when it hit the building? You know?
Conflicting witness reports anywhere from 100 feet to much more. So we'll have to wait and see what the recorders tell us. To much more. Depends who you ask. Pick a number.
Not at the point where it hit the building, but at about
yes.
And was it in descent when it hit the building?
Well, obviously.
John, we know you deal with facts. I don't like to say anything in speculation, but anything right now out of the ordinary that you see about this crash?
It's too early to say that. It's too early to say anything. I mean, we have a pretty compact debris field. Many pieces are not recognizable to most, so we need a little time.
John, is the possibility the plane was overloaded?
But that's always a possibility. We'll check that. You know, one of the things that we normally do is we check passenger weights, we check the load. We already have the load sheet from the folks. We're going to interview the people who loaded the airplane. I mean, that's all standard procedure for us to go through. That's always a concern on every airplane, big or small.
Capacity and how much it was carrying at the time.
All of that. We'll go.
Do you know anything about
We have that documentation. I don't know it off the top of my head.
There's a fuel pump all over the plane last fall. Do you know if that has anything?
No, it's way too early.
People were talking about a steep incline of the plane. You know, have witnesses told you anything
Yes,
about that?
yes, we have heard that it came down at a steep angle, but you know, I have to remind everybody that witness statements are not always the most reliable source of information. So we will take what witnesses tell us and compare that against the recorders and any other information we have before we say what it was doing. No, I don't know how many parameters are on there.
What will the wreckage ultimately tell you? From what you've seen there, what will it ultimately tell you?
Well, you don't know. Wreckages, you know, they tell a story. You watch the crime scene, I mean, we all do it. I mean, they tell a story. And that's how we make our living, is going through and looking at these, looking at the wreckage and looking at scars on the ground and all sorts of other things, and we put the puzzle back together.
What you see, rule anything out?
Cut it off right now because we don't have a lot of information, but as soon as we get more information, we'll be back up here to let everyone know as far as when the next briefing will be held. I will also let you know that as well. Can you just let me know how many of the passengers who were on here that just got on here and how many were en route, how many were
He asked the question, how many passengers originated in Charlotte and how many came from elsewhere? Right, and it's my understanding, although this is not hard information, it is my understanding that everybody came from somewhere else.
Including the crew?
Well, I don't know if they're based here. Well, they got on in Charlotte, but they may not have. That may not have been their first flight of the day. They may have come from Pittsburgh. They could have, you know, who knows where. But there was no Charlotte passengers getting on.
Do you have any other information about where these passengers came from?
No, and I only heard that in passing, so we'll have to confirm that. But somebody did say that to me.
How many adults and how many children?
I understand there was only one child, an 11-year-old.
Boy or girl?
I think it was a boy. Memory, you know, it may not be accurate.
Was the child traveling with his parents?
I don't know the answer to that either.
And have you ruled out that there was either any jump seat passengers or infants who are not on the manifest?
Have not.
So that's still a possibility?
But the manifest didn't have them on there, but you know how sometimes people carry a baby in their arms.
Any concern for other planes?
Excuse me?
There was no flight attendant.
I don't know the answer to that.
Any concern for other planes of the same model?
Excuse me?
Any concern for other planes of the same model?
Well, we've had a number of previous accidents with commuter airlines, so we always are concerned with commuter airplanes. But there's no indication of this airplane or any of the others having any systemic or long-term problems. But we don't forget, it's part of our normal operating procedure. We will ask all those questions. We will look at all the data. So,
How long is it going to take?
as long as it takes. You know, remember, Alaska Airlines took 3 years. We just finished that one. There was a previous 737 accident that spent 5 years on it. However long it takes to get it done, that's how long we're going to be
You said
here.
the wing struck the building. I mean,
Yes.
Was the wing sheared off? Was it left wing, right wing?
I can't. It looks like it was the left wing, but again, that's my own personal opinion from what I see. We'll have to wait and
And was the airplane upside down at that point?
some people have said that. I don't know that to be true.
Was it a glancing blow or was it a...
No, it was a solid hit.
And what about the reports of the steep incline? You're saying it came down on a sharp decline.
It's all unclear. Remember what I said about witness statements. People get excited and things happen. It's not that they're not telling us the truth. They're telling us what they saw. And sometimes we don't see things exactly the way they happen. There's all sorts of... The eyewitness statements are all over the map.
What about the pilot reporting in-flight emergencies? The pilot reported an in-flight emergency?
There was a radio transmission that says we have, I think it said, we have an emergency. Don't quote that because I'm not clear that that's what it is. But there was a transmission that said something about an emergency.
You have not heard a tape of that?
What?
But you have not heard a tape of that?
I have not heard a tape of that.
Witnesses said they saw both the props turning?
Yes.
Do these have counter-rotating props, or does it have a critical engine? Does it
No,
have a
you mean
critical
left and right? No, they rotate the same direction. We'll have, whatever I have tonight, I promise you I'll give it to you.
What time tonight
An official of the National Transportation Safety Board trying to answer reporters' questions in Charlotte, North Carolina, where a commuter plane crashed this morning. All 21 people on board were killed. Now back to Inside Politics and to Capitol Hill, where Senate Democrats are waging a new battle over judicial nominees, even as they learn that one of their members plans to call it quits. Our congressional correspondent Jonathan Karl is on the Hill. First of all, Jonathan, we got word this afternoon that Georgia Democratic Senator Zell Miller not going to run again in 2004. What does this mean for the Democrats?
It's a major blow for the Democrats. Zell Miller is extremely popular in Georgia, would have likely faced only token Republican opposition if he had run. Now with him out of the state looks solidly Republican. Republicans clearly now have an edge in Georgia with Zell Miller out. There are some Democratic names that have been thrown around, including, by the way, former Senator Max Cleland and outgoing Governor Roy Barnes. But those two both lost in the last cycle. One name to watch, though, on the Republican side, Ralph Reed, the former head of the Christian Coalition, is being talked about as a potential candidate. Reed himself, through his spokesperson, is saying that he would run if there were not another strong candidate to jump into the race, or he would at least seriously consider a run. But, Judy, this is just part of a bad picture for the Democrats, an extremely tough cycle. Take a look at some of the other Democrats that are up for re-election in this cycle in the Senate. You have Senator Fritz Hollings himself, who may retire from Republican-dominated South Carolina. Bob Graham, who may retire or run for president from Florida. John Edwards, who is running for president and may not seek re-election.